This week at Japan Love Walker, I have a question for you. How vital is the strength of the broth when enjoying a bowl of ramen? Sometimes subtlety can be key. That was my main takeaway from this bowl. This bowl felt like a shio broth itself was almost secondary to the excellent toppings throughout the dish. I would describe the soup as being a great base for everything else to excel rather than the other way round. This is not necessarily a negative as it might appear at face value, but it did emphasize the quality of the char-siu, the noodles, the egg, the wontons, and more. So how did it fare for the overall experience? Actually, pretty good, and here's why. I'll come back to what I think about the broth itself towards the end to help give you a full picture of my experience with this bowl. I will begin with the noodles. These were excellently done homemade noodles, zero complaints. Very thin, cooked just past al dente noodles that had an excellent slurping consistency and was an overall smooth experience. The noodles themselves were fantastic. When it comes to the toppings, I was very intrigued by the 3 types of char-siu that was on offer today. It was already reminiscent of last week's style. After all, Hori-san was the mentor of last week's chef Toya-san. The styles of both chefs have a number of similarities, especially with the care of the bowl presentation itself. I even noticed that they check how cooked the noodle is in the same manner as well. But I digress. There was 1 chicken char-siu piece and 2 thick pork slices. All meats here were excellently tender and had a rich grilled flavour to them, a very classic char-siu profile. What I particularly liked about these pork meats was how thick and tender they were. They managed to have the feel of thinly sliced char-siu while simultaneously allowing a lot of opportunity to chew thanks to the thick cuts. The chicken char-siu was at its best thanks to the subtle saltiness of the broth, emphasizing the quality of the lightly grilled meat itself.
Oh, wow. Some good deep flavoring.
One thing I absolutely loved about this bowl was this week's flavored egg. I had the choice of either a typical flavored soft-boiled egg or Kuntama, which means smoked egg. Honestly, this was a first for me in ramen. I was not sure what to expect by the Kuntama, but I knew I had to at least try it. This was without a doubt the highlight of the bowl for me. On my first few bites, I was almost disappointed because it didn't have any smoky flavor at all. Then, suddenly, it came like a whirlwind of smokiness that ultimately changed my entire perspective on the broth.
Damn.
For me at least, this was where I started to consider the more modest broth to be additive to the ingredients in the bowl. Absolutely phenomenal egg, and I hope to have more opportunities to eat smoked eggs like this in the future. Other ingredients included 2 wonderful pieces of rich flavored bamboo shoots, some slightly crunchy Japanese spinach, a meat wonton, and an ebi wonton. Both wontons had deep, rich flavors, with the meat wonton having a strong, punchy, meaty essence and the ebi wonton giving that chunky shrimp profile that was hard to resist. So, what is the deal with the soup? Was it beneficial to have it being quite a lighter broth? I would actually say yes in this case. Ultimately, everyone has their own preferences for ramen. Some people live for those deep, rich, thick broths like tonkotsu, while others may prefer a broth that is not necessarily the forefront of the bowl. This week's bowl felt more like the latter. It was a tasty broth, but it had a lot of culinary space for other elements of the bowl to really shine through. Having said that, an interesting element of the bowl was actually little pieces of burnt onion that allowed the broth to have its moments of impact when sipped.
Fried onion's good flavor.
It's kind of hard to summarize this bowl. I thoroughly enjoyed the complete package, but for the rich umami broth hunters out there, I would recommend that you focus your taste buds on perceiving the broth as being complementary to the full dining experience.
三重県四日市からの八の足葉というラーメン屋の店主をしております堀勝正と申します。今週は、塩ラーメンと醤油ラーメン、そして限定で味噌ラーメンを夜限定でお持ちしております。塩ラーメンの方は 魚の出汁が効いたすっきりとしたスープになっております。麺は国産の小麦を使った自家製麺を使用しております。日本のラーメンはやっぱり世界に誇る自慢の食文化だと思います。お出汁というその概念がやっぱり世界の人にもっと知ってもらえたらいいかなというね、いろんな味がこう集まったスープというか、それをこうもっとこう深い味わいを皆さんに、世界の皆さんに知っていただけたらなと思います。僕の味作りは基本的にはもう僕のイコール僕の哲学ですね。自分がいいと思ったもの、自分が美味しいと思っているもの、自分が綺麗だと思っている色、そういうものをきちんと取り入れて形に、ラーメンという形にするっていうことを心がけています。真似をしたくないですね。やっぱり自分の中から自然的に生まれてくるものだと考えております。
Thank you very much for watching this week's Japan Love Walker. I absolutely love making these videos and showing you some of the best that ramen has to offer in Japan. If you're a big ramen head like me, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.